Alright, so for strain energy functions, the strain energy functions could be given as explicit functions of lambda 1, lambda 2, and lambda 3. Where lambda 1, lambda 2, and lambda 3 are these numbers. F is equal to E multiplied, where this is a rotation matrix, lambda 1, 0, 0, 0, lambda 2, 0, Q. For these functions, to calculate P, which is partial W, by partial F, or in other words, Pij is equal to partial W by partial Fij, the only thing you can do is calculate partial W by partial lambda 1 multiplied by partial lambda 1 partial Fij plus partial W by partial lambda 2 partial lambda 2 by partial Fij plus partial W by partial lambda 3 multiplied by partial lambda 3 by partial Fij. And to get these partial lambdas by partial Fij, they come from this relation. And this is what the examples that we did, and these are the examples that we did, and these are the what you did for the assignment. Now for numerical numbers, it's fine. You can do it that way, but once it becomes, when I asked you to do things when there were no numbers, it got complicated, correct? When I asked you for shear, it got very complicated. So the easier way of doing it is only applies when W is a function of I1 and I2 and J, which is equal to the determinant. In this case, this function is usually very simple. For example, mu multiplied by I1 plus mu2 multiplied by I2 plus mu3, for example, multiplied by J. Example. And so, I would be interested in calculating P as partial W by partial, whatever the variable there is. So if I look at partial W by partial I1, multiplied by partial I1 by partial F, plus partial W by partial I2, multiplied by partial I2 by partial F, plus partial W by partial I3, multiplied or partial J, multiplied by partial J by partial F. These are simple because this will be mu1, this will be mu2, this will be mu3, and what I will be missing is just these partials, which, if we do operate a priori, then we can just, for any constitutive model, as long as it's function of I1, I2, and J, we can find P, and we can find the stress, because it's equal to 1 over J, F, P transpose, or P transpose F, something like that. F transpose, or 1 over J F P transpose. It's the same. So what's all these numbers? I1 of F transpose F which is equal to lambda 1 squared plus lambda 2 squared plus lambda 3 squared is actually equal to F and is equal to FF KI KI. F transpose F is equal to so F transpose F IJ is is equal to, in components, this is J, and I should come at the beginning, but because it's transposed, it's going to be at the end. So KK. And when I say I1 of F transpose F, that means it's the trace, which means it's equal to F transpose F I, which means instead of J, I put I. So FKI, where I'm summing over K and summing over I. Partial I1 by partial F, let's call it ML, is equal to this is equal to the following. FKI multiplied by partial FKI by partial FML twice. This is equal to 2 FKI multiplied by, this will only be equal 1 when K is equal to M and I is equal to F. Otherwise it's 0. Because F, these are independent components. So it's only equal to 1 because I'm saying, because I know F11 is equal to F11. And partial F11 by partial F22 is 0. Partial F11 by partial any of the other components is 0. So it's only 1 when F1, when partial FKI, this is only 1 when K is M and I is F. Which is equal to 2 FML, which means that partial I1 by partial F is basically the matrix F itself. And makes life very easy because look at, what does this tell me about the first PO by Kirchhoff stress? If I1 is here, then you take partial W by partial I1 multiplied by 2F. So that if you know F, you know the deformation gradient, then, and you know this function which is simple, then partial W by partial I1 multiplied by 2F gives you that component of the first PO by Kirchhoff stress. Similarly, to calculate I2 for partial I2 by partial F, it's a little bit more involved. I2 of U squared, which is equal to I2 of F transpose F, is equal to half I1 of F transpose F squared plus I1, or sorry, minus I1 F transpose F, F transpose F. If you take partial I2 and partial F, I or ML, actually let's do it in component form first. I1 of F transpose F, F transpose F. So F transpose F, F transpose F, I is equal to F transpose F, F transpose F, I at the beginning, I at the end and I at the beginning, but because of the transpose I'm going to put it here, then J, J, K, K, L, L. And this is switched because it's transposed. And partial I2 by partial F is equal to half 2 I1 of F transpose F multiplied by partial I1 by partial F minus partial all this by partial F, and you'll get that this is equal to 2 I1 of F transpose F, F minus 2 F transpose F. And you should do it by hand. You should do it by hand to practice doing these components by hand. Which again, if you know F, makes life very easy because then it's fixed. This will never change. So P, if you know the explicit function of I1 and the explicit function of I2, and then you calculate partial W by partial I1 multiplied by partial I1 by partial F, and partial W by partial I2 multiplied by partial I2 by partial F. And what's left is partial J by partial F, partial J by partial F. Is a famous formula. It's called the Jacobi formula. It's equal to actually J F negative transpose, and the proof is in the notes. But this is a famous formula. There are many other proofs available, but basically what it says is that the rate of change of the determinant with each of the components of F is equal to J multiplied with the F negative transpose. And so, for the problem where F was given as 1, alpha, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, I know F transpose, and I know W. Right away you get that P is equal to partial W by partial I1 multiplied by F, or 2F, plus partial W by partial I2 multiplied by this partial I2 by partial F, plus partial W by partial J multiplied by partial J by partial F, which is J F negative transpose. And the first periodic here, and the Cauchy stress tensor 1 over J P F negative transpose. F. Over GP F transpose. And so I put a lot of examples here for you, and even the examples that are in the book, I solved it in another way using this example, and you get the same numbers. So again, this only applies when W is an explicit function of these invariants. W is an explicit function of these invariants. But if W is just lambda 1 power 5 plus lambda 2 power 5 plus lambda 3 power 5, for example, it's not an explicit function of I1. If you can write it as an explicit function of I1, then life would be easy. If you can't, then you have to do it the way you did it for your assignment. And this also applies for the energy functions that if W is given as function of I1, and I2, and J, which is the determinant of that, for the second, the hyperelastic materials where the energy is divided into a deviatory component and a volumetric component as well, but it's just a little bit more involved, so read through the notes and see how we calculate partial I1 by partial F and partial I2 by partial F. And that, once you calculate these, you calculate them once and you know them, and if you ever want to calculate the first PO like Kirchhoff stress, all you have to do is just take partial W. By partial this I1 multiplied by partial I1 by partial plus partial W by partial I2 multiplied by partial I2 by partial I2. Alright, now again, the previous, how we did it in the previous assignment works, but it's just, if it's not numeric, it will just be a little bit more complicated. And the issue is Mathematica does not see that some roots, square roots cancel each other, and that's why you ended up with the huge equations. If you did it that way, you wouldn't end up with those huge, with those large square roots. Alright, so read all the examples. I put a lot of examples here for you just to see how to do all these things. Okay? Alright, so we have another lecture that to cover the remaining part of plasticity, and depending on how I feel, we might cancel the last lecture, depending on how I feel, not like how I feel, how I feel if you guys understand plasticity or not. If I feel that you guys need another lecture, we'll just take the last lecture to revise everything that we did in plasticity. But if you already, if you did the next assignment without any questions, if you didn't have any questions about this coming assignment, then we probably will cancel the last lecture. Alright? Okay, see you next week.